Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
Mr. Trump, move on. If congressional endorsements meant anything, Jeb Bush should be the nominee. Move on. It doesn't matter. The people that are running away from you are the people that want to sign up for amnesty and join the Democrats anyway. Move on. These people couldn't get the people they wanted the nomination. Just swat them away, Mr. Trump. Greetings. Welcome, my friends. Great to have you. Rush Limbaugh behind the golden EIB microphone. It's getting insane out there now. It's getting so insane that I'm questioning my own sanity now and then. I don't worry about it. I get it in check. But to keep up with this stuff, you have to descend to depths that you don't do. You don't go there on purpose. You have to be sucked into it. You have to be sucked down into it. And that's where the drive-bys are taking us. They want to say that it's Trump taking us down to the depths below the gutter, but I'm telling you, they're the ones doing it, folks. And they are doing it with happiness, and they are doing it with pride, and they are being joined by several Republicans in the process. I have to tell you something. I want to repeat this question to all of you Republicans. I know I just told Trump to forget him, but I need to repeat a question and modify it a little bit. We have a number of congressional Republicans and Senate Republicans, well, hell, Republicans of every stripe, elected, non-elected, who are publicly and happily, apparently, distancing themselves from Trump and saying Trump is simply unacceptable. By virtue of this, they are guaranteeing Hillary Clinton gets elected. Well, they're not guaranteeing that, but they are certainly telegraphing that they're perfectly fine with Hillary Clinton being elected. They're perfectly fine with it. They are doing everything but joining the Democrat Party. So my question is this, and at the same time, they're telling us to vote for them to stop Hillary Clinton. They're saying we cannot lose our House majority and we cannot lose our Senate majority while they abandon their nominee. While they abandon Trump. So they abandon Trump for some semblance of virtue, they want us to believe. And then, as they campaign for re-election and as their PR people and consultants campaign for them, they tell us that we must vote for them after they abandon the nominee. We must vote for them to stop Hillary. Why is it important? It must not be important to stop Hillary. You're doing the very thing that's practically guaranteeing her winning. Why is it important to elect you to stop Hillary if it's not important to you to stop Hillary from even getting there? We don't want to stop Hillary in the White House. We would like to prevent her from getting there. I don't understand you Republicans who seem perfectly content with her to get there, and then you come to us and tell us that you must get our support so that you can stop Hillary. Yet you don't appear to have any desire to keep her out of the White House. So how in the world can it be important to elect you? To me, it's a serious question. The WikiLeaks dump continues. It is phenomenal. It's a bunch of BS being spread out there. Folks, you've got to be very, very careful. This always happens. A bunch of so-called conservative websites that I don't believe are conservative. I think they're run by a bunch of pajama-clad liberals in their basements purporting to be conservatives are manufacturing completely erroneous and distorted examples they say they have found from the WikiLeaks dump, and they're absolutely wrong. I'm not even going to waste time pointing them. Just be very, very... If you don't recognize a website, if you don't think you've ever heard of it before, ignore it. It's a better bet to ignore it than to believe it and then be guilty of perpetuating BS that you then retweet, forward as an email or whatever that you do. Grab a soundbite real quick. This is number 27, Sergei Lavrov. You know who Sergei Lavrov is? The Russians are getting ticked out there, by the way. You know, while these campaigns go on, can I share with you a story from the UK Daily Mail? Let me give you the headline. Russia orders all officials to fly home, any relatives living abroad, as tensions mount over the prospect of a global war. Now, this is what 8 years of a feckless and incompetent foreign policy and weak diplomacy gets us. So-called reset with the Russians, it never happened. And the problem is everybody's attention is focused on our election and campaign, understandably so. But the UK Daily Mail has this story that Russia has ordered all officials to have any of their relatives living abroad get them home because tensions are mounting over the prospect of a global war. Russian officials have been told to bring relatives home to the motherland. Failure to act will put promotion chances at risk, according to local reports from the KGB. And all of this comes amid rapidly deteriorating relations between Russia and the West, which means us. Putin has canceled a planned visit to France amid a furious row over Moscow's role in the Syrian conflict. Putin is furious over what's being said about him by the Democrats. The Democrats are blaming him for hacking. I watched Marianne What's-Her-Face, the gal that lives in Boston, a Democrat strategist consultant that's always on Fox, Marianne Moore, and to defend the stuff that WikiLeaks has found and published. They're not denying any of it. Podesta and these people are not denying any of it. The standard line from the Democrats is, this is illegal. This is a breach of faith. This is against the law. This is the result of a Russian hack. The Russians are attempting to insert themselves into the outcome of a presidential election. It's horrible. Not denying the truth of it, but dumping it all on the Russians. And the Russians are claiming they didn't have anything to do with this. So Putin is getting ticked off about it. And even the beloved Mikhail Gorbachev has warned that the world is at a dangerous point due to rising tensions between Russia and the U.S. It is percolating out there. People are not noticing, paying attention, because their attention is diverted. Anyway, Sergei Lavrov, he's been on TV explaining the Russian reaction to some of these charges. And on one place, it's flattering to get this kind of attention, but we're not doing any of this. We're not hacking the Democrat servers. You know, and for her to blame the Russians, I mean, the WikiLeaks dump, the degree to which the Democrat Party, the Clinton campaign, is coordinating with the Department of Justice, the FBI, the White House, in running Hillary's campaign and protecting her from every investigation which has been looking into her. You want to talk corruption? We haven't even seen this guy. Richard Nixon, this is romper room compared to what they were accusing Nixon of. And we have it all documented. And we're going to try to make hay of it during the program today. But Sergei Lavrov was on CNN today, and Christiane Amanpour was interviewing him. And she said, can I just try one last question? It's a bit cheeky, but I'm going to ask you. Russia had its own Pussy Riot moment. Pussy Riot, by the way, is a Russian feminist punk rock protest group. They're based in Moscow. Just so you understand what Christiane Amanpour is asking about here. I mean, it's just CNN's way of getting the word on the air, is what it is. That's all they want to do is get the word pussy on the air. So they're using Pussy Riot in a question to Sergei Lavrov. So she says, can I just try one last question? It's a bit cheeky, but I'm going to ask you. Russia has had its own Pussy Riot moment. What do you think of Donald Trump's Pussy Riot moment?
Well, I don't know whether this would... English is not my mother tongue. I don't know whether I would sound, decent. There are so many pussies around your presidential campaign on both sides that I prefer not to comment about this.
And out of the mouth of somebody who claims not to speak English well comes gems of truth. Were you able to understand through the thick accent? Oh, you weren't. I need to play it again, folks. There's some people here claim they had trouble understanding the very thick Russian accent of Sergei Lavrov. So here again, Christiane Amanpour, just desirous of getting the word pussy on the air at CNN, has to ask this guy about something that's totally unrelated. The name of a punk rock protest group named Pussy Riot. So she does that, and she says to this guy, well, you in Russia had your own pussy riot moment. What do you think of Donald Trump's pussy riot moment?
Well, I don't know whether this would... English is not my mother tongue. I don't know whether I would sound, decent. There are so many pussies around your presidential campaign on both sides that I prefer not to comment about this.
And in not commenting on it, he just did. There are so many pussies around the presidential campaign on both sides. I'd like to comment on whatsoever. So there you have it, folks. So that's what they're sucking us in. They're sucking us in, and they're taking us down the whirlwind. And we try to get off. We try to maintain here a level of propriety and decency. And the drive-bys and the left and their guests on their shows just suck us in to this filth and take us right down wherever they're headed with them. Now, I mentioned yesterday on this program, I need to get this out of the way so we can move on to the crux of things today. I mentioned yesterday that if Hillary and the Democrats win the election, it's just the beginning. They are going to go after everybody who opposes them. The objective is going to be the elimination of opposition, not a level playing field, not a circumstance where free and open debate takes place, but the elimination of opposition. And I can demonstrate it. Demonstrate that I'm right by virtue of C-SPAN's Washington Journal today. The host, Pedro Echevarria, speaking with Politico contributor. Some of you might think it's Echevarria. Pronounce it both ways, but it's actually Echevarria. And Pedro spoke with Politico contributor and author Nicole Hemmer about her new book, Messengers of the Right, Conservative Media and the Transformation of American Politics. And Echevarria says, when did we see the growth of conservative media?
The late 1950s and 1960s, but it's always in this period pretty small. So they disappear historically. The real shift comes not with the first generation that I write about, but the second generation. So when Rush Limbaugh, his program goes national in 1988, you have a conservative media that is visible nationally and that is part of a national conversation. It raises this awareness of conservative media, but it also creates a false memory, I think, for Americans who look back and they say, oh, well, conservative media started in 1988. We need to understand that conservatives had been doing this for a long time.
Whoa, and that makes it even more important to stamp them out. We have to understand conservatives have been around a lot longer than 1988, like a disease. Conservatives and don't think that just because the giant plague hit in 1988 that the disease wasn't around before that, because it was. You just didn't see it, you didn't notice it, but it was there. Conservatism, the plague, has always been there. So after that settled in, Echevarria didn't have much to say coming back, but he did have a question.
You said Rush Limbaugh. Is he the standard bearer there as far as radio is concerned?
He is, absolutely. I mean, he's the one who pioneers this new interactive talk radio format that becomes nationally popular in the early 1990s. And it's really not until a decade later, until 2000, 2001, 2002, that you get his cohort, Sean Hannity, Glenn Beck, all of these folks who are modeled after him and create the broad conservative radio universe we have today.
Well, the plague existed, the plague of conservatism. You know, you can trace conservatism back to the founding. If you want to know where conservatism began in America, try Convention Hall, Philadelphia, in the mid-1700s. That's the origin of conservatism in America. The founding was especially conservative. But she doesn't know that. She hasn't been taught that. She hasn't the slightest idea. To her, conservatism is a plague. It's a disease. It was festering out there. The CDC didn't need to do anything about it. It didn't get big until 1988. And then it became almost an incurable disease that we have to do something about. She's now chronicling how it spread. And I owned it from 88 until 2000. She's leaving Fox News out of this. Then the cohort of other radio talk show hosts, it mutated, if you will. This plague of conservatives mutated out there, and all these sub-diseases began to spread. They were modeled after the number one form of the virus, would be me. So then they go to the phones, and they get a call from a woman named Martha in Texas. She says, I want to ask you, in 1986, FCC removed truth in reporting law. That was the year Rush Limbaugh started up. Did that make a difference in right-wing? And they want us to believe that everything is unscripted in these places. They just happen to get a call from somebody who wants to talk about the FCC removing a truth in reporting law. She's talking about the fairness doctrine, and there's nothing about truth in reporting and the fairness. Fairness doctrine is not equal time doctrine. It's nothing of the sort. Doesn't matter. You don't need to know the truth. You need to know an obscured version of the truth. So that caller asked the question, did the removal, don't you know, the removal of truth in reporting laws, did that lead to Limbaugh?
The regulation that you're talking about was removed in 1987. It's called the Fairness Doctrine. When the Fairness Doctrine gets repealed during the Reagan administration, does it open the door? I think it opens the door for station owners to feel comfortable picking up the Rush Limbaugh program, knowing that they're not going to get wrapped by the government for being unbalanced.
So you see how conservatism is being prepared here, or portrayed in this book, by a Politico info babe, a Politico reporter. It's a disease. It's a plague. And the CDC, in this case the FCC, made an error in treating it. They allowed the virus to grow by not enforcing truth in reporting laws, which enabled our EIB affiliates to skirt the edges of the law by picking up this program. All of this means they're going to take care of this. It's going to be pretty soon on their agenda, because this is, right here, the location of the primary opposition to the left and the Democrat Party, and they are not going to tolerate any opposition. As usual, folks, it's going to take all 3 hours to get through everything today, so just sit back and relax and hang with us. USA Today has an interesting story today. Survey reveals what Americans fear most. And you're not going to believe what USA Today says is at the top of this list. There are 3, 4, 5, 6, and 10 things on this list, and you're not going to believe what's number one. Corruption. Corrupt government officials are the greatest fear. Say 60% of Americans. And yet, that corruption is what's leading in every presidential poll. The political corruption that is occurring today is occurring in what we call the Washington establishment. It is run by the Democrat Party. It has several Republicans that are eager members. The corruption is the Obama presidency, the Clinton presidency, the Clinton campaign. There isn't corruption in the Trump campaign. He's not even in politics. Trump hasn't had, his fingerprints aren't on any single thing happening in our government today vis-a-vis policy. Trump is a total outsider. It is not possible for any government corruption to be traced to Trump. And yet the number one thing most Americans fear, they are going to elect. You know, I just heard during the break, I heard the media talking about the media. You know, one of the WikiLeaks leaks is that the Boston Globe editorial department worked with Hillary Clinton during a trip to New England to help her maximize her presence during a campaign trip. And they're not denying it. In fact, they're saying, well, yeah, we've long editorialized in favor of Hillary. We're a separate division from the rest of the paper. We proudly helped Hillary. We proudly worked with her to whatever they said. They're not denying it. The Boston Globe coordinated with Hillary Clinton to maximize her presence. That could mean her presence, stage presence, visibility, coordinating best places to go. They are New Englanders. They know where to go to make the most impact. They were helping her, not denying it. In fact, they're saying it's totally valid. It's a totally valid thing for the editorial department of a newspaper to do, particularly a newspaper that's endorsed Democrats since before Moses. And Donna Brazil's out there saying that she got hold of some questions and tipped Hillary off to what they were before a debate or town hall with Crazy Bernie. She's denying that it happened, and even if she had received the questions, she wouldn't have passed them on. And then they're dealing with John Harwood, who is sharing with people his excitement in affecting the outcome of a Republican debate by virtue of his treatment of Trump. So the media is not even, folks, they're not even bothered this stuff has been discovered. They don't think it's any big deal. They don't think you're going to care. And they don't think you're going to know because they're not talking about it. The drive-by media is studiously, purposely ignoring everything to do with WikiLeaks. So if you're one of these people, why don't people care? I can't believe this is incredible. You talk about corruption. Why this? They don't know, folks. Specifically, the low information crowd, they don't know because ABC, CBS, NBC, New York Times, LA Times, USA Today, they're not talking about it. New York Times, Washington Post, not talking about it. The drive-by media, mainstream media, not even talking about the whole WikiLeaks story. So they don't know. Now back to this USA Today. Oh, no. One other thing. I want to go back to soundbite number 3. This contributor from Politico, this author, Nicole Hemmer, with her book, Conservative Messengers of the Right, Conservative Media and the Transformation of American Politics. I want to play this last soundbite again. Because remember, her whole premise is that conservatism is a disease, and it was percolating out there prior to 1988. It was there, but nobody saw it. It wasn't killing too many people, so there wasn't a lot of concern. But in 1988, it became a plague when this program started. And in this soundbite, she is answering a question from a caller about truth in reporting laws and whether or not that served my purposes in starting my program.
The regulation that you're talking about was removed in 1987. It's called the Fairness Doctrine. When the Fairness Doctrine gets repealed during the Reagan administration, does it open the door? I think it opens the door for station owners to feel comfortable picking up the Rush Limbaugh program, knowing that they're not going to get wrapped by the government for being unbalanced.
Now stop and think of this. I want you to think of this in the mindset here. Station owners comfortable picking up the Limbaugh program, knowing they aren't going to get wrapped by the government. Now, it's not discussed much, but radio and television, terrestrial radio and TV, are governed by the government. They're policed, regulated, the FCC. And they have operating licenses that have to be renewed every so often, 3 years, 5 years. And to get them renewed, you have to have done enough things the FCC says that local ownership should do to warrant license being reissued. So that's always been part of the deal. But her attitude here is, station owners became comfortable picking up the Limbaugh Show, knowing the government wasn't going to do anything to them. So the point is, it's perfectly valid in this woman's mind for the government to have all of this power to determine what you get to hear and don't get to hear. It's perfectly valid for the government to sit there and determine who gets to say what and who doesn't. And her point really is that when Hillary wins the election, this is going to come back on the front burner, and government is going to put the fear of God in these stations. Government is going to start wrapping stations, if you will. Station owners are going to grow uncomfortable. And this woman, this First Amendment reporter, she's all for it. You know, I did an interview yesterday for the upcoming issue of the Limbaugh letter with Kimberly Strassel, who is a member of the editorial board at the Wall Street Journal and a columnist. And her book is all about vanishing free speech and the left's war that they are conducting against free speech. Let me find the exact title of this book. It's worth, and the previous guy that I interviewed for the Limbaugh letter, Benjamin Watson, tight end in the National Football League. He's played for a lot of teams and a lot of coaches. Boy, that was a great interview, too, and he's got a great book out about race relations in America. Strassel's title, The Intimidation Game, How the Left is Silencing Free Speech. Now, she cites a whole lot of specific instances and provides details and illustration. And one of those is Citizens United. You might have heard that Hillary Clinton promising in the debate the other night to do something to reverse Citizens United. In talking to Kimberly Strassel yesterday, I heard the best illustration or explanation of how money is speech that anybody's ever made. The left does not consider money speech. They don't want money to be speech. And many people, even on the right, mock it because money equals the rich. And the rich already have enough advantages over everybody else. And the fact that they get to spend their money that you don't have, saying things that you can't say, is not fair. So Hillary wants to wipe it out. Now, Strassel makes the point that the First Amendment in the Constitution is free speech, because the founders of this country knew it was the only, well, not the only, but it was a primary necessary ingredient to avoiding tyranny. People had to be able to say what they wanted to say, and no government was going to be able to stop them. And that's the freedom of religion, the freedom to assemble. But free speech is among the first things. And the left, folks, this is not arguable now. The left is constantly assaulting free speech. They want to limit what people can say because they do want a degree of tyranny. They want a degree of power over other people. Well, they can't just go out and pass laws saying that you can't say whatever they don't want you to say. So they come up with a proxy for speech. And they go after that. And that is money. There is no question that in the case of campaign ads, political action committees, you name it, political campaigns and organizations find ways to communicate their ideas with voters for the obvious reasons, and it costs money. And the availability of money and the legality of spending the money on campaign ads is nothing more than expression of speech. The left has been at war with the whole idea that money equals speech, and they do it by going after the rich and corporations that are inherently unfair, inherently bad, inherently mean. Corporations are at the top of the Democrat Party, the left enemies list. And so while they can't openly attack what you say and they can't openly pass laws denying you, they use proxies to go after speech, and money is their number one proxy. By preventing people from spending money on politics under the guise that it's unfair because not everybody has money, not everybody can spend it, therefore it isn't free, it isn't free speech, it isn't fair, they're trying to stamp it out. And in the process, they are, without question, assaulting the whole concept of free speech, which is what leftists must do. They can't survive. They are a statist/tyrannically oriented ideology, and they can't survive amidst opposition. They're not interested in winning debates, exchanges of ideas. They are interested in eliminating all opposition. Citizens United specifically is Hillary Clinton trying to clamp down on people who made a movie about her. She didn't like what the movie said. So the word Citizens United has become a buzzword, a knee-jerk word for the left that to them equals excess, illegality, must be stamped out, it's unfair. And there are a number of other proxies for free speech that the government, that the left is going after. And it's chilling. It is genuinely chilling what they are trying to do. And coming after this program and coming after conservatism under the guise that it's a disease, and it was out there, but it wasn't very noticeable in the 50s and 60s. But, man, then it metastasized in 1988, and it's something we've got to get rid of. It poses how in the world does it pose a threat? These are just words. Whatever you think of Trump, it's just words. And they want to stamp it all out. They want to tamp it all down. And it takes me back to the USA story. Survey reveals what Americans fear most. 10 items. Number one on the list, 60% of the American people claim corruption of government officials is their top fear. How does this make any sense? They are going to vote for the single greatest corrupt candidate that we have perhaps nominated to be president in this country, Hillary Clinton. The corruption that has gone on in her campaign with the FBI, with the Department of Justice, the corruption that has taken place in the whole Obama administration, the erasure of various laws and regulations vis-a-vis the Constitution. The corruption is unmistakable, and yet people say they fear it the most. It can't be Trump. I want to emphasize again, corruption and Trump, not here. Donald Trump's fingerprints are not on one thing in the government. He's not been in government. He hasn't had any government power. He hasn't had any government access to speak of other than as a donor. No more than anybody else, no less. So voters talking about government corruption, they might foolishly believe that Trump represents that because of what they've been told about him in the media. But the corruption lies exclusively on the Democrat side of the aisle. In order, the other things the American people said that they are most afraid of: terror attacks, number 2 at 41%. Not having enough money is 3 at 40%. Being a victim of terror is at number 4 at 38.5%. Government restrictions on guns and ammo, 38.5%. Is number 5. Number 6, they're afraid of people they love dying, 38%. Number 7, economic or financial collapse. Number 8, identity theft. Hello, LifeLock. So isn't that amazing? In the top 10, number 8, identity theft is one of the greatest things people fear. Corruption being number 1. Number 9, people you love getting seriously sick is the 9th thing they fear most. And are you ready for number 10? The 10th thing. Number 1 is corruption. Number 10, Obamacare. 35.5% of the American people claim Obamacare is their greatest fear. They're going to re-elect it. Or, better state, they're going to elect the people who they're going to vote for, the people that brought it. They're going to vote for the people who are corrupt. This is the kind of stuff that makes me do pretzel twists that I can't get. I just don't understand it. This is incredible. It's incredible. The American people fear the government led by Barack Obama more than anything else and don't know it. They claim that the government corruption is their number 1 fear. That's the Obama administration today. I mean, you're talking about government corruption. Who's been running the government, folks? Where is it? You've got the FBI and the investigation of Hillary that didn't happen. You've got Benghazi. You got the IRS. You got the government targeting conservative IRS groups. I mean, people know, but they're not blaming Obama for it. They don't blame the people responsible. It's the Limbaugh theorem. Somehow the Democrats escape all accountability for what they do. And it's because the media is the media, and the Democrats are running around talking about the need to fix all this as though some phantom group of people is doing it. Nobody's happy. Nobody thinks we're heading in the right direction. Look at this. U.S. job openings fall to lowest level in 8 months. Job openings. I mean, that's where unemployment goes to get fixed. And if there aren't job openings, then unemployment's going to remain unchanged or get worse. Then some random headlines from Drudge. Look at this. Bill Clinton, Trump base, standard rednecks. And now the media is debating what rednecks mean so that Clinton doesn't get tarred and feathered for use of the term. If Mitt Romney had gone out and called people rednecks, oh, man, it'd be a fireable offense. But Clinton calling them rednecks, hey, yo, it's rednecks. That's Trump's base. You know, the bitter clingers out there, the people that got their guns, and they're just like Obama said, a bunch of rednecks. And now the media is debating a definition of rednecks so that it doesn't come back and bite Clinton. And there's a story out there, Drudge is linked to it. Obama flaunts erection to female reporters. It happened on his campaign plane. You haven't heard about this? Yeah, it was back 2008, I think, during the campaign. Obama stood up, a bunch of female reporters on his campaign plane with an erection. They got all excited. They all huddled around to see it. I'm dead serious. I've got the story. Hell, who knows what's true anymore? But I've got the story. Nobody's out there denying it. That, yeah, Obama was giving the female reporters and the flight attendants a big thrill, and they weren't shrieking in fear, and they weren't running away, and they didn't start crying, and they didn't act like, oh, my God, Godzilla's aboard. They all gathered around and wanted to see. I'll find this. I've got the story here. I wasn't going to even get to it till I see it now linked on Drudge, and there's video of it. California town, now less than 10% white. Tim Tebow saves man's life after putting hands on him. I mean, there's no better time to be doing what I'm doing. I don't misunderstand. I'm not complaining. It's just astounding. CNN recorded the video of Obama flaunting his erection on a campaign plane as a senator. CNN sat on the video, so to speak. But the reporters are not scared. They're not running for cover. They're not shocked. They're not offended. They're curious, folks. Hang tough. Be right back. Yeah, my guess is if you want to see the Obama erection video, you better get there quick, because they're going to try to get this taken down as fast as you know they can. And folks, it's amazing. Obama's flaunting an erection on a campaign. Did you click the video link? Did you? All right. So here's what he clicks. You click the link and you watch the video. It's a YouTube video. It's on a campaign plane. He's a senator. So it's 2007, 2008. And there is a woman standing in the way, and all the other women are, sit down, get out of the way, so they can all see. All the women, the reporters on the campaign plane, want to see the Obama erection. Now, we're being led to believe that this kind of thing is just... I saw a woman break down in tears on Fox yesterday talking about what Trump supposedly said to the video, the audio tape that was reported by NBC and Billy Bush. She literally broke down crying. Her name was Marjorie something. She's a frequent... Well, she's a frequent guest. I have no idea who she is, but I see her now and then. But in the middle of talking, she just literally crumbled and started, we cannot elect this man. Just, I know you're going to be very careful talking about this, but I'm just saying that here with Obama, Trump didn't do anything. He didn't do anything. It's just a bunch of words on an audio tape. By the way, more on that here in a jiffy. Here's Obama. This is I've got a great story today. I better get you and I have been wondering why hypocrisy never attaches itself to Democrats. I've got the best explanation yet. And I'm going to get to that real quickly. But first, there's this from our old buddy Harvey Levin at TMZ. NBC planned to use the Trump audio to influence the debate and the election. This was posted about 10 o'clock this morning. NBC executives who used to work with Trump on his TV show, The Apprentice. Former Trump broadcast partners executives at NBC had a plan to time the release of the Donald Trump audio to have maximum impact on both the second presidential debate and the general election, sources connected with the network tell TMZ. Multiple sources connected with NBC tell TMZ that top network executives knew about the video long before they publicly said they did, but they wanted to hold it because it was too early in the election. The sources say that many NBC executives have open disdain for Trump, and their plan was to roll out the tape 48 hours before the debate so it would dominate the news cycle leading up to the face-off. TMZ says, as we reported, Billy Bush was bragging about the tape in front of NBC executives down in Rio at the Olympics in August. NBC says it's only known about the tape for a little more than a week. They're lying. So far, we haven't heard a word about the Clinton campaign here, folks. We have heard only NBC execs. NBC execs who used to work with Trump on his TV show. NBC executives who obviously are also Clinton campaign staff. NBC executives have known for months about this tape and planned to release it before the second debate. The only thing that stopped them was Hurricane Matthew. TMZ says that the plan was to edit the tape and take Billy Bush out of it. Billy Bush, an NBC employee, Access Hollywood, whatever the show, they were going to edit it so that it was only Trump. The only voice people were going to hear was Donald Trump. They were not going to air the portion where Trump and Billy Bush got off the bus. They were not going to air the portion where Billy Bush goaded Trump and the soap opera star to hug each other. They weren't going to air Billy Bush encouraging Trump to hug the woman who was also on the tape. TMZ says the tape was going to be sanitized to protect Billy Bush as much as possible. So what happened? Well, what happened was an NBC executive got ticked off that they were going to release the tape after the hurricane. Somebody at NBC wanted this out regardless of hurricane coverage and leaked it to the Washington Post. Somebody at NBC gave the tape to the Washington Post, and that's how it entered the public domain. After the Washington Post ran the story, Access Hollywood aired their footage and cut out the parts where Billy Bush looked worse. Now, we've told you the plan got derailed, this TMZ still ready. We told you the plan got derailed by Hurricane Matthew. Execs decided that the wall-to-wall coverage of the hurricane would mess up the plan to dominate the news with the Trump tape, so they were going to hold it until Monday. That didn't sit well with some staffers who wanted it out before the debate, so it was leaked to the Washington Post. As one source put it, NBC really screwed Billy Bush. They had no problem with him on the tape until it got leaked. Now, here's what the point about that is. They were trying to protect Billy Bush. They were going to edit this tape so that nobody knew it was Billy Bush on this tape at all, to protect him as their star on Access Hollywood, I guess. And then somebody leaked it to the Washington Post with Billy Bush in it. And NBC decided to throw Billy Bush overboard as well as Trump, since their original plan to edit him out had fallen prey to a leaker giving it to the Washington Post, and the tape there featured Billy Bush. So now Billy Bush has been fired in another act of hypocrisy. NBC was doing everything they could to protect the guy, but since the leak included him, now NBC is acting all righteously indignant and outraged that one of their employees could possibly do this after they had planned to protect him. So now Billy Bush has been suspended for who knows how long from appearing on any NBC shows just to make it look like somebody at NBC has some honor and some dignity. And by the way, for those of you who work at TMZ and you might be upset that I refer to Harvey Levin as our old buddy, don't take it out on Harvey. Harvey's just been fair to me. That's why I call him our old buddy. I can understand some TMZ employees might want to revolt and retire, hearing me refer to Harvey as our old buddy. Harvey's been fair to me. So that's all. That's the reason I call him our old. I've never met Harvey, so you people that work there don't have to resign in a fit of pique. He's just, unless you think it's unfair that I would be treated fairly. I mean, one particular story, Harvey had it exactly right, and nobody else did, and he went with it. So, okay, now to this story on hypocrisy. And I know, we're going to get to people on the phones. You're chomping at the bit out there to get in on this. I know you are, and we're going to come to you right after the upcoming break. But, you know, we like talk here about hypocrisy all the time, and we wring our hands and we express our frustration. How come hypocrisy never attaches itself to the Democrats? Yet, when it comes to Republicans, it's become a crime. Hypocrisy is a crime when Republicans are caught in it, and yet it never even attaches to Democrats. So there's a piece here called The Ugly Stench of Hypocrisy by Michael J. Hurd, Ph.D. He's a Ph.D. in psychology, Living Resources Center. The most insightful thing I've read yet about the Donald Trump sex talk scandal is this. But let me give you some pull quotes here before. Well, now I'll read the opening of the story and then get to the pull quotes. This is actually from 3 days ago. It just took a while for our sources to come up with it, but we've got it. The most insightful thing I've read yet about the Donald Trump sex talk scandal is this. How ironic, then, that a culture which rejects moral standards, and make no bones, folks, we do. Standards, moral standards. You stand up for moral standards, you're going to be mocked and laughed out of the room. They're going to call you a prude. They're going to call you a Victorian. They're going to call you an old fuddy-duddy, an old fogey, and they're going to claim you want to deny people having a good time. So, a culture which rejects moral standards. In other words, anything goes. You know what the magic word, the only thing that matters in American sexual mores today is one thing. You can do anything. The left will promote and understand and tolerate anything as long as there is one element. Do you know what it is? Consent. If there is consent on both or all three or all four, however many are involved in the sex act, it's perfectly fine, whatever it is. But if the left ever senses and smells that there's no consent in part of the equation, then here come the rape police. But consent is the magic key to the left. So how ironic, then, that a culture which rejects moral standards has suddenly become so pure and pristine, sitting in judgment of someone they deem too immoral to become president because of something he said in private. As a logical person, I have to ask these paragons of newly found virtue where this standard by which they've judged Trump is found. If morality is relative to each individual, and believe me, it is today. You try to define morality, and they're going to come for you and mock you and make fun of you. And worse than that, you don't have any right to define morality. One of the undeniable truths of life that I wrote back in 1987 is that morality has become an individual choice. And, of course, it isn't. Morality is what it is. Virtue is what it is. And you either are or you aren't. And the left doesn't like that, so they've obscured the lines and the definitions. And the definition now, moral, is whatever you can get somebody to do with you. Consent. You can do anything. If you can get the dog to consent with you, if you can get the horse to consent, we got no problem with it. And they don't. So morality has been boiled down to consent. This is my point, and it's true. So it said here, if morality is relative to each individual, a purely subjective experience, by what standard are they judging Trump? Obviously, in such a secular climate, there can't even be a standard. Why should anybody listen to people who out of one side of their mouths declare the death of objective moral standards, yet out of the other condemn somebody for violating objective moral standards? Because, you see, morality is not subjective. Human beings possess the capacity for rationality and objectivity. We are able to distinguish what's good and what's bad, and we know it. We know right from wrong. We know good from bad. We know what we should do and what we shouldn't do, and the left wants to not feel guilt when they engage in what you shouldn't do. And therefore, the way to get there is to simply erase the concept of objective morality. There isn't any. You don't get to define it. Nobody else does. You get to define your own. And therefore, you can't criticize. Well, in this atmosphere, how does anybody dare preach to Donald Trump when we have spent the last 25 or 30 years obliterating the moral code, when we have blown virtue to smithereens? Who are you, phony, baloney, plastic, banana, good time, rock and rollers, all of a sudden now sitting in judgment of Donald Trump? Trump's trashy comments do not uphold sex and romance as a beautiful and fulfilling, uplifting activity, but neither do Bill Clinton's actions over the years, particularly with respect to his many, many dalliances with women. But Bill Clinton's not running for president. His wife is. But his wife built her whole career off the springboard of his presidency. Without her husband's presidency, she would not have become a U.S. Senator and Secretary of State. A bad one, but she wouldn't have become either if it weren't for her husband and her using that as her springboard. If Bill Clinton had gone down in flames during his impeachment trial and been removed from office, Hillary Clinton would not be running for president now. Now, the whole argument back then was that his lying and perjury was just about sex, none of your business. Well, isn't this tape with Donald Trump just about sex, too? I mean, if it's okay for a president to actually have oral sex in the Oval Office, and we don't see any crying women shrieking on TV about it, if it's okay for a president to have oral sex in the Oval Office while doing official business, then why is it irredeemable and unforgivable for a presidential candidate to make lewd comments in private when he thought nobody was listening? But the questions, and this gets to the nub of it, folks, the questions are pointless. Hillary Clinton has come this far. She has proved that if you have the right political connections, you're not even accountable to the Department of Justice. You're not accountable to the FBI. When it's proven beyond a doubt that you violated the law, you are a lawbreaker, but you will not be charged if the president and those who serve him want you to win. Now that is a scandal. And that is hypocrisy. So far, Hillary Clinton has gotten away with everything she and her husband did, but she is still brazen enough to sit in judgment for something that's not even a crime. Hypocrisy is a painful thing to watch. It's beyond laughable to watch the biased media culture and all the Hillary-supporting politicians go all puritanical when it comes to sex. The morally righteous never had this problem with Bill Clinton. And they don't have a problem with Hillary's mind-numbing evasiveness when it comes to partnering with one of the highest-profile sexual predators of all time. Hypocrisy is a symptom. People are hypocrites only when they're evading something big. What the Clintonistas try to hide is they care about only one thing, and that's power. They don't care about respect for women, because to respect women, you first have to respect individuality, and their entire lives have been based on the acquisition of political power and the millions of dollars they can acquire as a result. Okay, we, starting on the phones here, as promised, Rush Limbaugh would have my brain tied behind my back. Mike in Louisville, great to have you with us, sir. Hello.
How you doing, Rush?
Good. Thank you.
I'll make my point really quickly, sir. With the corrupt media today and what WikiLeaks is coming out with and how Hillary is, how can we trust the polls and what they say?
I don't know. My advice would be to ignore them. Whether they're right or wrong, ignore them. Don't let them affect. Don't let anything dispirit you. Don't let anything. I don't mean you specifically, Mike. I'm talking now generally. Don't All of this is designed to convince you it's over. I even find it fascinating that some of the drive-by commentators on these estimable networks like CNN are actually now wringing their hands in concern that it looks like such a landslide win for Hillary that they are worried Democrat turnout will be suppressed. They think, because of their polls and just their general analysis of things, they think it's going to be a 50-state landslide. They think Hillary's going to win every electoral vote. And they're afraid that if too many people on their side think this, that there's going to be massive people staying at home. No need for me to vote. It's a pain in the butt to get out of the house, go to the polls and stand in line. If I don't need to, I'm not going. That's what they claim they're worried about. Maybe, but what they're really trying to do is make you think there's no point in you voting. So I can't tell you about the polls. I mean, we've been through this backwards and forwards. There's no... Just don't let them affect you one way or the other. Welcome. Great to have you back. Cutting Edge Societal Evolution. Rush Limbaugh having more fun than a human being should be allowed to have. I just listened to a little bit of Trump. Trump's in Ocala. I have not seen Trump on fire like this in months. In fact, our microphones are... Let's jip this. We've missed a lot of good stuff, but let's see what's going on here. Listen to this for just a second.
Watch. You go home, they'll say, why did it end so abruptly? A vote for Trump is a vote for America first, and it's a vote to protect Medicare and Social Security and lower your taxes.
He just acted out something. It's hilarious.
Big tax decrease. We're going to lower your taxes. WikiLeaks also shows something I have been warning about for a very, very long time. The media is simply an extension of the Clinton campaign.
Yeah.
It's one of the biggest ways that our system is rigged. And I was the first one to use that term when I was running in the primaries, when I won Louisiana, and I got fewer delegates than people that I beat easily. And my people said, oh, no, that's the way the system... I said, well, then the system's wrong. How do you win a state and you get less delegates? And I said, this system is rigged. And it was, but we figured out how to win, right? That's what you need. Won in a landslide, got more votes than anybody in the history of the Republican Party in the primary system. By far.
Crowd's going nuts here, you.
Reporters who work for these outlets, like the Washington Post or the New York Times, may think of themselves as journalists, but they're actually cogs for a corrupt political machine. That's the Clinton machine.
That's like a fifth time he's used the word corrupt in 5 minutes.
The Boston Globe, Univision, who I sued Univision, and I was very happy with what they did. And this lightweight, John Harwood, this lightweight, this guy who came out, he was shaking, he was so nervous, he asked me the first question, Mr. Trump, could you answer this question? What a lightweight. They should have fired him for what he did. John Harwood, I hate to make him famous, but because nobody ever heard of him before, but a total lightweight. Of CNBC, all doing favors for the Clintons, and reporters smothering the Clintons with praise. The New York Times even gave Clinton a call to give her veto power over her quotes in a story that was already written. Nobody ever called me and said, hi, Mr. Trump, we wrote a story. Would you read the story and please give us a little feedback? Would you like us to take anything out? This system is so rigged. Now, this is all down in the emails. She had veto power over what she said. I'll tell you what, I want to have that too. I want to have veto power. I used to get such good publicity, folks. Now, I mean, it's incredible. I used to get, my life was so simple. My life was so simple. I had a beautiful, simple life. It was going. I built an unbelievable company.
Right. This is all true.
And then I decided to do this.
Yeah,
and my life became slightly more complex. We have people in this audience right now that 18 years ago had one great job. They were making more money 18 years ago than they're making now. And now they have 2 and sometimes 3 jobs. In other words, they're older and they're working harder and they're making less. Not a good assemblage of facts. Here's the only good news. I'm also older and working harder than I've ever worked before, okay? That I can tell you.
Okay, we're going to bump out of this. I just wanted to give you a flavor of it. Trump is on fire. Well, during the break, he went through at the bottom of the hour, he just made fun of a bunch of the things we've learned in the WikiLeaks. One of the things we learned in the WikiLeaks dump is that they had to tell Hillary when to smile on the teleprompter when she's actually debating Crazy Bernie or when she is doing roundtables or whatever. They would actually write the word smile on a teleprompter or note cards, whatever they were using to prompt her. They would write the word smile, and occasionally she would read the word instead of doing what it was advising her to do in terms of behavior. She was, but she is so deeply impersonal that they didn't trust that she knew when to smile and when to look friendly, so they had to coach her on when to do that during speeches and the like. And Trump just made fun of that and illustrated what that would be like if they did it for him. But he's gone through several of the WikiLeaks details and mocked them. But the point to me is that this is as fired up and as focused as I have seen Trump on the stump in months. I don't know what it means. It doesn't mean anything. I am just sharing with you my observations of things. Let's stick with the email since that's the next stack here. Clinton camp appeared to have contacts with DOJ on email cases. Another point that Trump made, pointing out the corruption that exists. There is corruption. There is the DOJ. There's the FBI. The Obama administration all coordinating with the Clinton campaign during the email investigation. We had the FBI, or rather the IRS, targeting Tea Party groups and denying them tax-exempt status and looking for other activity they could maybe label or charge as criminality. I mean, it's unprecedented. The Boston Globe editorial department admitting that they helped Hillary increase her presence in New England during a campaign stop. An official within Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton's campaign appeared to have discussions with sources inside the Department of Justice about ongoing open records lawsuits regarding her emails. This, according to an email itself released yesterday. In an email from May of 2015, Clinton campaign spokesman Brian Fallon said that the, quote, DOJ folks had informed him about an upcoming status conference in one of the lawsuits regarding Clinton's private email setup. Now, the fact that Fallon, a former spokesman at the Justice Department, remained in contact with anybody from the department is likely to renew allegations that the Obama administration maintained an especially cozy relationship with the Clinton presidential campaign. On Tuesday, Trump said the connection was unbelievable. The email shows a level of collusion which calls into question the entire investigation into her private server. And he's right, it does. The DOJ was guiding Hillary through this. You know, Hillary's deleting 33,000 emails. There's no criminal activity looking into it. There's nothing but protection. The FBI, the Department of Justice, coordinating with the entire Hillary campaign to effectively shield them and to give them a heads up as to where the investigation was going. In another WikiLeaks dump, the Department of State provided a detailed readout of official email traffic it was about to release in response to Freedom of Information Act requests to the Hillary campaign. So when the State Department was going to reveal a bunch of emails that journalists and others had demanded, the Clinton campaign got a heads up before the release so that they could prepare a response to it. The emails concern speeches that former President Bill Clinton gave abroad and did not include any traffic from Hillary Clinton. State Department advised that it is standard practice to share documents subject to FOIA requests with outside organizations if those outside organizations have equities in the request. It's a bunch of mumbo-jumbo to say, hey, this is nothing unusual. We always share information with targets when they're of our party to protect them. So Hillary was being given a heads up on everything coming her way so they could prepare a response to it. Other things were being shielded and not being made public. It's stunning. The degree of corruption here. Another WikiLeaks dump. Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas, warned Hillary not to push the myth of a rosy economy. Hillary Clinton's campaign team was ready and willing to make promises about the direction of hires in a Clinton administration and otherwise appease progressive hero Elizabeth Warren, perhaps fearful that she would endorse Crazy Bernie. The disclosure about a January 2015 meeting between the two camps was made after a third major drop on Tuesday by WikiLeaks. You know, and Elizabeth Warren was saying, well, if you keep lying about this economy, I am going to go with Crazy Bernie. If you keep pushing this myth of a rosy economy out there, I'm going with Crazy Bernie. Now, the meaning of this is they know the economy's in a tank. They know the economy's in the dumper. And during the Democrat primary, Elizabeth Warren didn't want Hillary to get away with talking about how great it is. Because as a Democrat running for re-election, or election in her case, and coming off 8 years of the Obama administration, she can't go out there and talk about how bad it is because that would then be blaming Obama. So Elizabeth Warren was warning her not to go overboard in praise because it isn't that good. And if you do, I'm signing up with Bernie. But to hear them publicly, why, this is the greatest economy. We got job creation out the wazoo. It's never been better. Obama's a savior. He has a recovery from the worst financial crisis of the Depression. All these lies. Every bit of it calculating coordinated lies with the media, with the Department of Justice, with the Department of State. And Hillary Clinton apparently so incompetent she has to be guided on when to smile and when not to via teleprompter. But, folks, I'm going to tell you something on this WikiLeaks business. This is just a fraction of what's out there. Don't get stuck on any one thing like John Podesta or Hillary staffers. I'm telling you, think bigger. Because what I'm reading is only what's been hacked and what's been released. This, I think, all of this is still the tip of the iceberg. It is the tip of the iceberg that has positioned itself to sink this country as founded. This whole WikiLeaks document dump is just a tip of the iceberg of the corruption and damage. The iceberg itself is the Democrat Party, the Obama administration, the Hillary campaign, and we've just seen the tip of it. These emails demonstrate why Hillary Clinton created this private server, this illegal off-grid server. We now know why she did it. All of the corruption taking place openly. She didn't want it ever known. She didn't want it ever released. Americans are not supposed to know that the news and the candidate and the elections are scripted and rigged and coordinated. We're not supposed to know this. It's all supposed to look natural and organic. It's all supposed to look like everybody involved here is waking up every day not knowing what's happening and seeing what happens and reporting it to you. And the people telling you what's happening are the people making it happen. This is scripted and has been for I don't know how long. The daily soap opera, the daily news narrative, whatever, is a script, and it's coordinated. And the only people left out of it are Republicans and conservatives. And these WikiLeaks emails demonstrate why Hillary Clinton deleted 33,000. They demonstrate why Democrats have secret email accounts. They don't email each other about how to better serve the American people. You haven't seen that. You haven't seen an email on climate change either. Every one of these emails is essentially a traffic in deceit. All of these emails essentially show how the Democrats are trying to deceive everybody, including us. I have to take a break. Be right back. Don't go away. You know, I opened the program today advising Mr. Trump to just abandon talking about the GOP. Remember, because I said, Mr. Trump, the guy they endorsed got 6 delegates. They don't carry that much weight anyway. So they endorse Jeb. So don't worry about the GOP. And for those of you in the GOP and you in the conservative media who are seemingly happy to have Hillary Clinton elected, at the same time running around asking to be reelected to stop her, it doesn't make sense to us. You don't think enough to help keep her out of the White House, but you want us to elect you so she can be stopped when she's in the White House, when we haven't seen any evidence that you try to stop Democrats when they're in the White House. Another thing to you GOP and conservatives who just find Trump repugnant, repulsive, you better understand something real fast. They're going to do this. They're going to convert any Republican nominee ever to a reprobate. Look what they were able to do to Mitt Romney. Nicest, sweetest, gentlest, most normal human being, and they turned the guy into a villain who didn't pay his taxes, who didn't care about dogs, put him on the roof of the station wagon, didn't care if a dog died, and didn't care if the wives of his employees got cancer and died because of lack of health care. If they can do that to Mitt Romney, they can do it to anybody that you find acceptable down the road. They would have done it to Jeb Bush. That's all they can do. Here's Margot in Charles City, Iowa. Welcome to the program, Margot. Great to have you here.
Hi, Rush. How are you?
Good. Good, thank you.
I am in panic mode. You said don't panic until you tell us when to panic. And last night, my husband and I watched the Hillary's America movie, which I could not find in the theater anywhere, so I advanced ordered it a DVD. We sat down together and watched it last night. And Rush, I am a longtime conservative, 64-year-old Catholic woman. I am scared to death. I don't sleep. I'm an absolute basket case, and I want what's good for my children, my grandchildren, my family. It's all going down the tubes because after watching that movie last night, all I saw was what's coming down, what's next, what they have planned.
You're talking about the Dinesh D'Souza movie.
Yeah, Rush, they've been doing it for so many years. The Clintons were just as young people, and the Saul.
It's not time to panic.
Oh, it is.
No, it's not. You have to understand. This is the first time in my lifetime that the Democrats have been seriously opposed. That's what ought to tick you off. But look, I'm out of time. You hang on, Margot. Not on the phone, but just keep listening, and we're going to deal with this. It is the fastest 3 hours in media, and probably the most focused 3 hours in media. And we have one speedy and focused hour that is left to do. And we'll take an obscene profit break here, and we'll come back and resume. I have continued to watch Trump and his personal appearance here. Now, I want to be very accurate here what I'm saying. I'm not hyping anything. I've never seen him like this. I've never seen him this informed off the cuff of what he's talking about. He's rolling off statistics on what's wrong with Obamacare. He's talking about how much premiums have gone up in terms of percentage and dollar amount. I've never seen him with this immediate grasp of fact. I've never seen him articulate what he's trying to say this well. He's been at it for an hour in a place I don't think the air conditioning's working. Everybody is sweating themselves silly. He's in Ocala, Florida. He's commented on the heat in there twice. Everybody in there's glistening, it looks like. He hasn't skipped a beat. He hasn't taken any kind of a pause. In the entire time I've been checking, I haven't heard him mention Paul Ryan but one time, and it was a casual, sort of a glancing blow. It is focused and it's informed. Some of it's boilerplate when he starts talking about the trade deals and saving the coal industry and the steel industry, but it's still relevant. By boilerplate, I mean it's things he says all the time that I've heard before. I guess that's what it is. I'm hearing him go places I haven't heard him go before, sounding knowledgeable and up to speed, and he's not off rhythm. He's not pausing to think about where he's going to go, and he's not distracted by things. It's, you know what it's like? This is what usually we get. I remember in 2012, this was what we were getting with Romney in the last 4 or 5 days. And everybody said, man, there's something happening out there. And the crowds were huge. And everybody thought, well, man, finally we're getting some energy here. Things are changing. Things might be looking up. What do they know in the Romney camp that we don't? What are their internal polls showing? These are the questions we were asking. And, of course, it meant nothing. Romney ended up losing by whatever it was, 6 to 8 points. Trump is down anywhere from 5 to 9 points, depending on the poll you look at. And I'm not putting anything substantive or not in the polls. I'm just ignoring them, folks. It's all you can do. We know so many things are corrupt now and so many things are rigged, and we know that so many things are coordinated that, why would the polls not be? But then again, they have, on balance, they've been right, not universally so. I'm just trying not to let the polls distract me and determine my attitude about things, which would be my advice to you. Now, naturally, if we were leading in the polls, we'd have a different attitude about them. I understand all of that. And I'm not trying to hype anything here, artificial enthusiasm or any of that. I'm just telling you this is a different Trump here today. You haven't seen this Trump in the debates yet, for example. You haven't seen it. Even what everybody thought was a great performance on Sunday night was nothing compared to what he's been. And he's not been distracted, and he's not been talking about himself, and he's not been whining about what people are saying about him. He has been focused. Now, I haven't watched the whole thing. I get, 3 and 4 minute little blotches of it when we have stoppages here. So he may have done all these things, and I just haven't seen it. But it seems just in the 4 or 5 little segments that I've been able to watch, different, upbeat. I mean, he's actually said things. I'll give you a couple examples. I'm going to be really disappointed if I lose this election because it'll mean it was for nothing. And I don't want to think this is all for nothing. If we lose this election, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know where we're going to be. Our country, we can't afford to lose this election. He's saying things like this, and these people are going nuts in response. And in that sense, he is sharing the personal commitment he has to this. And I think it's somewhat important because a lot of people think, because there's wealth involved here, that if he loses, he's still sitting fat and pretty. He's got his clubs, he's got his golf courses, he's got his penthouse, he's got his life, even if he loses. But he made it clear today that he doesn't intend to lose, and that all of this would be a total waste of time and money if he loses, and he doesn't waste time and money. Now, back to our caller, Margot from Iowa. She said that she watched Hillary's America, the Dinesh D'Souza movie. She had to go out and get it on DVD. And it confirmed what she already knew, but it was still had some stuff in it that was new that she hadn't. She's panicked now. And I know, look, folks, I understand the emotion and the circumstance. I'm the same way. In fact, I have emotions identical to yours and then some that I don't want to share or express here because it would not be classy to do so. But this, I'm angry. I am frustrated. I'm not panicked. Not in the sense of the word. I mean, not to the point that I would tell you it's time to panic. It's not time to panic. It's time to stay focused. And it's time to make sure that you do everything you can to be unaffected by the tripe that suffices as the so-called news every day. We now have learned enough to know that our instincts have been confirmed, that it's not the news. It is a coordinated effort to coronate Hillary Clinton. It's a coordinated effort to get her elected and to suppress opposition, to depress opposition and turnout, and all of these things. My frustration is boundless at many things. I've always tried not to be frustrated with the American people. I've not wanted to join the fray of people that say the American people are dumb and stupid, but clearly there's a lot of ignorance out there, meaning in the strict sense of the word, lack of knowledge. But then they don't know. And I don't know how many Americans it is that don't know. We got this USA Today story today, a survey, 60%, maybe 61% of the American people, number one fear they have is corruption in government. Well, that doesn't jibe. If they have fear of corruption in government, that cannot include Donald Trump. He's not in government. He never has been. Whatever corruption is taking place in government, the one guy that has no fingerprints on it is Donald Trump. And by definition, the corruption that exists today is, who's been running the show for the last 8 years? And who's been openly flaunting the Constitution and the disregard for it? And who's been lying to people about their health care and what Obamacare is going to be? My frustration is, how does this never seem to attach itself? How is it that these lies, public distortions and lies, to our face, why does it never attach? I don't know that I'm ever going to get that question answered. And for me, that's personal. I have spent whatever number of years here trying to educate and inform people. And for a majority of people still to not get it, and apparently they don't. And I'm not convinced that it's just solely because the media doesn't report it. I think that the left has been so successful in damaging the brand, and this is a means of expressing this. You just mention the word Republican, and it doesn't matter. To certain people, it's just automatic yuck, and they don't even listen to what comes next, no matter what they know about the Democrats. And that leads to further frustration, because then I realize that the Democrats unify around defeating us, and part of that effort is impugning us and destroying our reputation and our credibility. And our side doesn't engage in any of that. They shy away from it, in fact. And we can't even unify. And then I get up and I look every day at all of the so-called conservatives who are beating their chests in happiness that Trump is losing in the polls because they get to say they were right. Do they not share with us the absolute horror of what it means for this woman and her party to have another 4 years minimum with everything they believe, starting with immigration and open borders and what they're going to do to the military and our national security? Does it not matter to them? Is being able to say they were right, they're the smartest people in the room? And all of these Republicans have been publicly wanting accolades for abandoning the party nominee. From whom are they expecting these accolades? And these accolades they get from whomever, how does that benefit them? What do they think their future holds? Do they think they're going to be more electable? Do they think they're going to have more respect because they stood up and abandoned the nominee and helped Hillary Clinton get elected? And that means they stood up for what, morality? They stood up for conservative principle by allowing Hillary Clinton a cakewalk into the White House? And they think this benefits them how? Down the road? I don't understand it. Except that I do. It all has to do with the establishment. You know, Jeff Lord had a piece in the American Spectator about this, about these Republicans abandoning the party. And he made an interesting analogy that I should point out that many other conservative columnists and bloggers and journalists are just ripping to shreds, by the way. This piece that Jeff Lord wrote in the American Spectator. I don't have it in front of me, but I'm going to paraphrase it. He said, and remember, Ronald Reagan was everything to him. He worked in the Reagan administration. Reagan has the answer for everything conservative in Jeff's life. It's how much he respects and reveres Reagan. And Thatcher. And he quotes Reagan defining what a political party is. And makes the point that a political party is not a fraternity. It's not a fraternal order. It's not a club. It is a collection of all kinds of people, not just certain people who are qualified and permissible. All people of certain ideas and certain principles who believe in those things as the best for the country. And it doesn't matter if you're from Mars, if you're from California, if you're Mississippi, Arizona, it doesn't matter what your race is. It doesn't matter what your orientation or your gender. If you are a believer in these things, then you are a conservative and you are a Republican. But today, in his view, the Republican Party's abandoned all of that. There's no connection to principle or philosophy or ideology. It's just a club of like-minded people of the same class. And that is what permits these people to just abandon the nominee of their party, because they don't really look at the Republican Party as a party. They look at it as a club. And it's a club they don't want Trump in. And it's a club they don't want destroyed. It's a fraternal order, a fraternity of sorts. But there's no unifying principles. The things that get you membership are the way you think about other people in class-oriented ways, but not in terms of conservatism versus liberalism, constitutionalism versus anarchy. None of that matters today. The Republican Party's not organized that way. And as such, it's not worth much. And he laments this. Now, I'm paraphrasing a lot of this, as I say, I don't have it in front of me, but the comparison of the way Reagan defined a political party versus what the Republican Party today appears to be, fraternal order, and to look at the way some of the Republican Party, conservative media especially, they're just saying, Jeff Lord's, this is the stupidest thing that this stupid guy has ever written anyway. So he must have hit home somehow. But I'm serious. I don't understand. Can you tell me? I mean, you talk to people who work for these. Can you tell me what do they expect to redound to their benefit from having openly denounced and abandoned Donald Trump? It's Trump. It's not that in their minds. It's not even that they're abandoning the party nominee. They think he's illegitimate as a nominee, and so they're abandoning him. And I'm trying to imagine to what benefit. And then some of them are running for re-election claiming we need to keep our majority so we can stop Hillary. And I really am dumbfounded by that. Why is it important to elect you to stop Hillary, but it's not important for you to stop Hillary before she gets elected? I don't understand this. Particularly when we haven't seen much success in stopping Democrat presidents after they're elected. Well, that's redundant. Well, I know. Look, because it's the club and the establishment, there's business to be done. There are connections to be maintained. There are donor dollars to get. You can't remove the donor aspect in any of this. I mean, if you run for office, you can't do it without money. And if you have a bunch of donors promising you huge money, and all you've got to do is trash Trump, publicly abandon Trump, then you think you've got your insurance policy. Well, even if your voters do turn against you, get mad, you still got the donor dollars after the fact to run your campaign for re-election. But still, to me, it's pointless. You know what? It's not important enough to stop Hillary now, but it's going to be real important to stop Hillary in January with a Republican majority in the House and Senate. But we don't want to go so far as to have somebody other than Hillary in the White House. I don't know. So all of these things, folks, panic, not yet, but real consternation, frustration, anger, really frustration over all of this. It's not hard to understand this stuff. It must be hard to accept it for some, but it's not hard to understand it. Anyway, let me take a brief time out because of the time constraints. I have no choice. I have to do it. Okay, we got some sound bites coming up next half hour. Give you an idea of the way Trump appeared at the rally today, which I think was different. It appeared that way to me. You be the judge. More leaked emails. And this, I see this, and I boil. I just literally start boiling over, and I realize it isn't news. A newly exposed email exchange shows Hillary Clinton campaign chairman John Podesta and the communications director Jennifer Palmieri and John Halpin, the Center for American Progress, mocking, making fun of, trashing Catholicism as backwards. Released by WikiLeaks, part of the alleged cache of Podesta emails, begins with Halpin sending an email to Podesta and Palmieri chastising Rupert Murdoch and the Wall Street Journal managing editor Robert Thompson for being Catholic. The Hillary guy notes Ken Oletta's latest piece on Murdoch in the New Yorker starts off with the aside that both Murdoch and Robert Thompson, managing editor of the Journal, are raising their kids Catholic. Friggin' Murdoch baptized his kids in Jordan, where John the Baptist baptized Jesus. Many of the most powerful elements of the conservative movement are all Catholic. From the Supreme Court and think tanks to the media and social groups, and they're spitting mad over it. Now substitute Muslim for Catholic in these emails and see what would happen. These people in the Hillary Clinton campaign emailing each other, mocking, trashing, making fun of, belittling people who are Catholic, and at the same time warning us there better not be any backlash or disrespect for the Muslim American population. Some of the finest Americans are from our Muslim population. And these people routinely trash Catholicism and Christianity in general. And they freaking get away with it. Obamacare and that whole thing at Georgetown University, by making religious institutions give out drugs that are going to further abortion, making the cap. That's what these people do under the threat of removal of funds or other serious government oppression. Corruption out the wazoo. Damn right, and nothing happens to them. Proudly, I state, talent on loan from God. Yeah, let's make fun of Catholics. Yeah, you know what they say about, these, they go on to say, the Clinton guy, Halpin, he's one of the three quoted in the emails here. Yeah, they go on to call conservatives who are Catholic an amazing bastardization of the faith. Yeah, these conservatives that say they're Catholic, they're just choosing Catholicism because they know it would be horrible to become an evangelical. So they must be attracted to Catholicism for its severely backwards gender. So the Catholic Church to these schlubs is nothing more than a political organization that's about 2,000 years behind at times. So to these people in the Clinton campaign, the Catholic Church is nothing more than a political organization, needs to get with it and needs to understand gay marriage and needs to understand whatever marriage anybody wants as long as their consent, needs to understand abortion and get with it. Needs to stop all the misogyny. That's all the Catholic Church is. So when these conservatives like Rupert Murdoch and others who choose Catholicism, they assert that they must be attracted to it for its severely backwards gender relations. So people choose to become Catholics because they're squares, because they're nerds, because they're geeks, because they like Puritanism, and they like Victorianism, and they like all these restrictions on social good times. It's an amazing bastardization of the faith for guys like Murdoch to become a Catholic. They must be attracted to the systematic thought and severely backwards gender relations. They must be totally unaware of Christian democracy. So Catholicism, one of the first and oldest Christian denominations, is, according to the left, way, way, way off the mark. It's nothing more than an out-of-place political party. Jennifer Palmieri, who was also with the Center for American Progress, adds that she believes Rupert Murdoch and Robert Thompson, his aide at the Wall Street Journal, and many other conservatives are Catholic because they think it's the most socially acceptable, politically conservative religion. Their rich friends wouldn't understand if they became evangelical. So what she's really saying here is that all these Republican Catholics, they're not religious. They're phonies. They're choosing to be Catholic because they can't. Their friends wouldn't put up with them if they became Jerry Falwell or if they became Franklin Graham or Billy Graham. So they got to go mainstream Catholic. They're not even religious. They're just doing this to fool people. They're just doing this to make conservatives think that they're religious when they're really not religious. It's just, this is what they say to themselves privately. This is what's leaked. And then they define Catholicism. And these are the people who are forcing Catholics to violate tenets of their religious faith wherever they can. If they have run schools, if they run universities, hospitals, you name it. They're making them give away and provide what are called abortifacients. For those of you real into, these are things that facilitate abortion. Drugs that facilitate abortion. They are making these religious, but they don't do anything of the sort to Islam or Muslims, except make excuses left and right. Anyway, I've got to go back to the phones here, folks. We have Marcia from Crystal Lake, Illinois. I'm glad you waited. Great to have you with us. Hi.
Hi. It is an honor to be on your show
Thank
today,
you.
and I am going to get right to the point. From this day forward, Mr. Trump needs to reinforce day in and day out that the political elite and the career politicians are ruining this country. And they are no longer considering the will of the people anymore. A point that you brought up earlier in the show was Obamacare. More than 60% of the population did not want this. And yet, what did they do? They voted against the will of the people. It's time for common sense. In truth, to trump political correctness. I think that would have been actually a great bumper sticker. But anyway, getting back to Margot, she should not be panicking and discouraged. What happened this past weekend with that statement that was released added fuel to my fire.
You mean
And I am more likely now to put an X next to Trump's name because of what the political elite are doing to this country.
Well, she's not, I don't think Margot is not to the point of giving up. She's just really worried. I know why she's worried. She's primarily worried that enough a majority of our population doesn't see how they're being scammed. That's what panics. I think it's what panics everybody. That so many people seem to be ignorantly, blindly going along with all of this. Anyway, I appreciate the call, Marcia, very much. I really do. But you might like to know that Trump today was really hitting on this point that you like, that Washington has become nothing but a bunch of ruling elites with no interest whatsoever in actually helping the general population of the country. He was really hammering that, which he does frequently, but he was really, hitting the nail on the head with it today. Here's Sean in Advance, North Carolina. You're next. I'm glad you waited. Hey.
Thanks, Rush. Appreciate it. Quick shout out to my friend Jeff Shanholtz, who turned me on to you in 1992.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, he taped your television show in the middle of the night on a small station, and I'm just very thankful. Rush, I want to get right to the point. I really believe in this next debate, Trump can gain momentum from him learning the debate style in debate 1, I believe masterfully in debate 2, taking a concept of answering questions in the way that best served his interest, and if the question didn't deserve being answered, he spent time getting to points like drawing a line in the sand in Syria and some things that I can tell he's well focused on. Here's what he needs to do, and I want to get your opinion. I think he needs to say these phrases. Check these email leaks. This is in their words, not mine. This is in Hillary Clinton's campaign's words, not mine. If you want to fact check, go straight to the facts. Links on my website. What do you think, Rush?
Well, I think he will. I think because he talked a lot about the wiki, and he had it down pat. I have to tell you, I'm still in the process of organizing. I still need the crib sheets in front of me to remind me of everything that's in these leaks so far. And he was rattling them off. One right after. He wasn't spending a whole lot of time on each one, but he was rattling them off and making a point about them. And when he got to the one about Hillary having to be coached when to smile, he illustrated what that would be like if he had to be coached to smile. He faked reading a teleprompter, and now it says to smile. And then he smiled real big, and then went back to what he was saying. It was a great, great way of mocking her. But you need to know something out there, Sean. The drive-bys have already subtly begun the conversation that we don't even need a third debate, that Mrs. Clinton should just cancel it. The only side for her is a downside. She's got this election won. It's in the bag, they say. It's over. There's no reason to give Trump another chance to get back in it. Another debate isn't necessary, the drive-bys say. And by the way, this is all coming from the Clinton campaign. No, the drive-bys do nothing independently. It's all from the Clinton campaign. So the talking points are out there. And one of the other reasons being given is that Trump is so embarrassing. And these debates feature language that's just not suitable for our children. It's just the worst. It's a national embarrassment to have Donald Trump with this kind of national exposure. The only decent thing to do, they say, is cancel the third debate. We can't subject our children to any more of this. We can't subject our women to any more of this. This is some of the lowest of the low that Trump represents. He's just filth personified. And there's no reason to have this third debate. That's starting to simmer out there. Have you seen this, Mr. Snerdley? Have you seen stories like this out there yet? He's not listening. I'm telling you they're there. And I don't know if it's going to reach a crescendo, because not everybody thinks it's the right idea. Some people on the left think that Hillary would look very bad walking away. Like she's afraid of Donald Trump. And then they say, no, she's not afraid. She's trying to protect America's children. She's trying to protect America's women from having them subjected to more of this degrading scum and filth that is Donald Trump. So I just want you to know that there is effervescing beneath the surface this. I think it's an effort to build up support somewhere for canceling the third debate. And the reason for it would be, the real reason would be, that Hillary's got nothing to gain. They think, they really do. They think it's over. They think she's won it in a landslide. It's in the bag. It's finished. So the only thing that could happen for her would be things that go wrong. I got to take a break. We will continue in mere moments. Don't go away. Charlie in Sedalia, Missouri. You're next, sir. Great to have you with us. Hi.
Thank you. Rush Limbaugh, the legend lives. Greetings from the Queen City of the Prairies. And how are you, sir?
I'm very well, sir. Thank you very much.
I was wondering if you would think it would be appropriate or inappropriate if next week, when Trump's hammered by Hillary about his locker room talk, if he were to reply by saying, Mrs. Clinton, to plagiarize a line from you, at this point, what difference does it make? Yeah. Would that work for him?
See, what that requires is the audience knowing that she said, what difference does it make, when she was in congressional hearings about the loss of life in Benghazi. She actually said, look, 4 Americans are dead. What difference does it make now? Meaning how and why. What difference does it make? Any time that you have to rely, that you have to assume the bulk of your audience knows, I just think that's a risk. When I saw your question up there, I began to think, okay, debate strategery. What should it be in the next debate? By the way, folks, make no bones that the Washington Post has a story about what a waste of time it would be to have a third debate. That Trump is such a reprobate. He's so despicable that it's unkind to subject the people of this country to another hour and a half of Donald Trump. That's the theory. But it'll happen because Mrs. Clinton doesn't want to attract a reputation of cowardice and walking away from it. But how to go after her in that debate, look, this is just me talking, right? I could change this any moment. I think Trump's got to appeal to the American people. And not just convince people that she's dangerous and so forth. He's got to make himself look better, not make her look worse. And I don't mean that he looks bad. I mean, in comparison of the two, he's got to become more... Look, folks, I know we want to see Hillary Clinton blown to smithereens, but that may not be the best way to affect victory in the next debate. We can talk about it tomorrow, which we will do.